A few years ago, I put out a video about the only 6 licks you need to learn to play solos and trade like an authentic jazz drummer. And looking back, I left a lot out. It's true that jazz drumming is built on the backs of giants, like Max Roach, Philly Joe Jones, Art Blakey, Joe Morello, Roy Haynes, Alvin, Tony, etc., and that it's important to study these guys to absorb the tradition, to sound authentic. But since that video, I've been coaching students, a decent number of whom wanted to learn jazz. And simply telling them to learn and drill the licks of the greats, and good luck to you, wasn't gonna fly. For starters, what are you supposed to do in between the hot licks? And what if you don't want to keep repeating the same thing? But even more basic than that, what if you have a hard time improvising so-called swung eights? What if you have a hard time knowing what to do with the hi-hats? All this stuff was opaque to me until I started actually teaching jazz drumming. So today, we're back to update that video. Here are all the things that were missing from my last foray. I'll give you a step-by-step that you can start working on today, complete with transcriptions you can download for free by clicking the link below the player. So you can start with the foundations and then have somewhere to put those hot licks when you see them, and a way to make them your own. And if you want to go deeper, you can sign up for my jazz coaching the next time it opens. Oh, I'm Nate, and I played some jazz in my day. Back in the day, we didn't have cymbal stands to hold the cymbal. It was your brother Bart, and you had to treat him nice and make sure he didn't get too drunk. But I did play jazz professionally in New York for around 15 years, whatever that means. Today on 80/20, I was wrong about jazz drumming, and now I'm going to make it right. Your blueprint for better jazz solos. Stay tuned. Let's start from the middle. Where I try to get with my students is something I call paradiddle flow. It basically consists of making continuous swung eights out of paradiddles, singles, and doubles. There are a few components I'll give you to memorize. There aren't many because there don't need to be. And you're going to switch among them in creative ways. This practice of taking a discrete set of rhythms and mixing and matching them in real time is what I call flow. And I think other drummers who use the word have a similar meaning. If you can get to this spot, this is your home base. This is headquarters, if you will. And from here, you'll be able to start mixing some of that magical jazz solo vocabulary from the old masters in. Which is why the first half of this lesson will just be getting there. Because as I discovered when trying to teach this stuff, there are some hidden steps. Let's go back to Step 1, swung eights. Let me give you 2 flow idioms, but I'll give them to you in straight eighths or sixteenths. The first is right, left, left kick. And the second is right, right, left kick. If we switch between these with full control over the order, for instance, we can do A, B, A, B, or B, A, B, A, or A, 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 B, assuming the first lick is A and the second lick is B, you can make some nice syncopated phrases. But can you do it once I ask you to swing the eighth? Swung eights are a bigger challenge than you might think for a drummer who's never tried them. At issue, the distance between all subdivisions isn't equal. Let me play straight eights on the snare. Now let me swing them. Hear how there are 2 different distances between the notes? If we isolate the 1 and 3 and, that feels a little farther apart. But if we isolate the and 2, and 3, and 4, those seem closer. So what's going on? This isn't a perfect match, and different drummers have different distances, but a decent way to explain them is using triplets. Let me play triplets on the snare. Now I'll leave the second triplet out. So those instances where I'm starting on a downbeat and playing the third triplet next, that's 2 whole triplets distance. Versus if I'm starting on the third triplet and ending up on the next downbeat, that's only 1. In other words, the 1 and is twice as much distance as the and 2. To practice these, I like to put the metronome on every triplet and just practice the right, left, left kick, trying to lock up with the first and third triplet. When that's comfortable, start incorporating the right, right, left kicks. When you're successfully flowing between those two, congrats! That's the first challenge down. Now, on to step 2. If we include one little fly in the ointment, this gets twice as hard. Right, left kick. Because it's 3 notes, it reverses the polarity of the accents. In other words, if you start with right, left, left kick and right, right, left kick, you were always landing on the downbeat, even if you weren't accenting it. But toss that right, left kick in, and all of a sudden, you're upside down. But this is essential in real jazz soloing, and it's one of the more complex things about swing. You're permutating the lick, and that changes which parts have 2 triplets distance between them, and which have only 1. Just for an example, here's right, left, left kick repeated starting on the downbeats. But if I offset it 1/8, it's the same order of limbs, but the distances between the notes have reversed. Trust me, you do not have to know any of this theory to play. I'm just explaining why it's so difficult, so you don't get into it and feel, this is super hard, is there something wrong with me? No, there's not. It's just hard. To practice this though, I just play a few bars of right, left, left kick, then throw in a right, left kick, then a few more bars and repeat. This way, you see the right, left, left kick through all the permutations. All the ways it can be right side up or upside down within the bar. When that's comfortable, try it with right, right, left kick. If you're feeling really saucy, try to flow with all 3. If this is hard, another thing to work on is just flowing right, left kick across the bar line. It'll take 3 bars of 4 to come back around. Whew. Sweating bullets already and we barely left the station. Now, challenge 3. Step 3, adding hats on 2 and 4. Yet another thing we'd think would be easy because we see the greats doing it all the time. And it is easy in some ways, as long as you're playing something that repeats without changing its orientation. But once we start using the 3-beat phrase to rotate things within the bar, it can get janky. Baby steps though. First, let's practice our individual idioms. Right, left kick, and right, right, left kick. Next, let's create a flow by switching between them. With the hats, try to make the chick sound dry and the same volume every time. If you're having problems with extra sounds or wash, think of keeping the weight down through the pedal until the last minute, lifting just a little, then putting your leg weight on it as soon as it's closed. Ready for a challenge? Let's throw right-left kick in the mix. As we were doing before, a few bars of right-left-left kick, then a right-left kick, until we hit all the permutations. Same thing with right-right-left kick. Now, for the brave ones, let's try to flow by switching among these three. Doing well? Great. Let's give you another lick. Right, left, left kick. This is a 6-note lick with 2 right-hand accents. You can move around the surfaces. Now let's switch amongst the 4 possibilities. If you can maintain this, congrats! A few things to keep in mind. Common sticking points I see for students. First, are you maintaining the swung 8th subdivision? Is the distance between notes more or less consistent over that swung 8th matrix? Second, are you able to play the hats on 2 and 4 without rocking your body and with a good sound? Finally, is your idea flow good? Are you able to vary your phrases and make interesting shapes? Are you able to follow the rules of the exercise and put together good clean reps without hiccuping? Could you do this for 15 to 20 minutes without a hiccup? Good job. You've now got the matrix into which we can inject some of the more bespoke jazz phrases. It's now time for step 4. Step 4, adding that classic jazz vocabulary back in. Let me give you 2 classic jazz solo triplet phrases. Here's the first. And here's the second. You could actually just play them together to make a nice little loop. But instead, we're going to inject them into our matrix. Remember that our matrix is a combo of all those swung 8th exercises as we did before. So we're just going to play that exercise again, and we're just going to look for cool places to insert the first Philly Joe lick. 2 ways to do this: instinctive and mathematical. You could, for instance, determine that it begins with a pickup, so you could put the second note of the phrase on each of the 4 downbeats of the bar. You could also just try to feel where loading the Philly Joe lick in feels best. Either is valid. Now let's try with our second lick. There are hundreds of classic jazz licks and many transcriptions of them online, and you can do this with all of them. Brief sidebar about why this is so important. One of the biggest obstacles in learning jazz drums is that you're trying to balance 2 things that are hard to balance. You need to get enough reps in any one thing to get better at it, for instance this lick. There are touch, timing, orchestrations, and other issues with this, so you need to rep it. And on the other hand, practicing improvising with the material. Go wrong on the not enough reps end, and the lick won't sound polished or subtle. Go wrong on the not enough improvisation end, and you never make the lick your own. And you can't ever flow with it. You're stuck forever playing something you just memorized. Like memorizing a sentence in another language without ever knowing the meaning. That is the problem with simply transcribing jazz hot licks from the jazz greats. And a lot of jazz drum instruction is like, transcribe this solo from XYZ drummer, something something, you're now improvising with it. So I wanted to supply the something something in this video. Of course, my coaching programs go way deeper with this stuff, and also give you FaceTime with me and personalized feedback on your playing. To get the free transcription of all the licks in this video, and get on the list so you can hear about openings in my coaching program, just click the link below the player. Final chapter, using this in a sentence. Of course, jazz swing is its own whole thing. For a complete video on that, just click here. But let's assume you know a little bit about how to play jazz swing time. One of the most important aspects of jazz drums is trading, mixing it up. So the last phase of this little crash course would just be playing 4 bars of swing time, then taking a solo for 4 bars, using the ideas we've gone over. If you can do that, you're well on your way to being a jazz drummer. And that's how you get the gig! So folks, this was a little more block and tackle one, but I hope you'll take advantage of the free transcription by clicking the link below the player and telling us where to send it on the next page. Additionally, you'll be on the list so you'll be the first to hear about our next coaching opening. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another Lesson of the Week.